Hello. Um, Today I'm going to talk about the idea of God seeking, God as seeker. And the post is called God is Still Seeking. And it's a play on the UCC God is Still Speaking campaign. And the reason why I chose to do it is or to make this post, is because I think a lot about what it is that we look for in God and what it is that God looks for in us. And I've come to the conclusion that it's the same thing. I mean, some passages in the Bible say, "Be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect," or "Be ye holy, even as your Father in heaven is holy," and things like that. Which, from those commandments, I would say that we look for God to be perfect and holy, but there it is saying that we're supposed to be perfect and holy. So then the idea comes to me that whatever it is we're seeking in God, God's also seeking in us. So there's a mutuality in that. And the way that I draw an analogy to that is in the post, I write that saying, "An apple doesn't fall far from the tree." And the idea of that saying is that the child is like the parent. But very often we don't actually think about the fact that the apple is not meant just to be an apple. The purpose of the apple itself, the fulfillment of the apple, is when it exposes its seeds, when the whole apple itself is either goes rotten and then all the flesh of it falls away and there's nothing left but the core and the seeds, and those somehow make their way into the ground, and then it creates new trees. That's the purpose of the apple fulfilled, to be just like the tree, or as close as possible to the tree that dropped the apple in the first place, if you're following the analogy. However, when we say the saying, but we don't really think about that. We don't think that whenever you hold an apple, you're actually holding the potential of infinite apple orchards. You're not thinking, generally speaking, I imagine that we're not thinking that the apple, yeah, it's a beautiful fruit and it's a delicious fruit, but the purpose for the apple itself is for us to eat the fruit so they can get away all that stuff that it doesn't need, so they can perpetuate its own existence, which is to plant its seeds and to grow and to be fruitful and multiply. No different than us. But the whole idea behind it is that when we say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, it is to say that the the fruit of the tree is supposed to grow into something like the tree, and we, being the fruit of God, or the offspring of God, should be like God, more like God. And that's what some of those teachings, like "Be ye perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect," or "Be ye holy, even as your Father in heaven is holy," or "Be ye one, even as the Father and I are one." Those sorts of things are saying to us, become like God. And God is looking and seeking those of us who can do that. And I believe that's just inherent in all beings. But if we don't arrive at that consciousness, we're not going to approach life that way. We're not going to approach our relationship with others or with God that way. That being said, another thing that I draw on in the post is that this is true for everybody. And the way that I draw it is I use the story of Jesus meeting with the woman at the well. And the reason why that story is so significant is because in that time frame, Jesus talking to one, a woman, two, a Samaritan woman, three, a woman that has been in many adulterous relationships, and for him to talk to her openly, drink water with her, have a conversation with her, and not only that, she's the only person that Jesus came out explicitly and said, "I'm the Christ that everybody's waiting for." Everyone else, he said things that like alluded to it, but he never really came out and said it. And even when people said, "Are you that?" He said, "You said it." He never said, "Yes, I am." He said things that alluded to it, but he never said it specifically to anybody outside of his circle. But he said it to that woman. And that woman in his time would have been despised, wretched, worthy to be stoned, and all these other things. But he openly revealed himself to her, which says something. Paul says that God uses the foolish things of the world to shame the wise, and the weak things of this world to shame the strong, so that no one can glory in God's presence, or that no person can boast and say, "Oh, it's because I'm so awesome. That's why God has revealed this, that, or the other thing to me." Paul is saying that God reveals, 1 second, Callista, God reveals um, himself, herself, however you want to express it, to the things that most of us would despise and not look at. And Jesus himself is someone that people would despise and did despise. And he says the one that the builder rejected has become the chief cornerstone. And I don't think God's changed in that fashion. But for most of us, if we live a kind of life that we can say, I'm awesome, consciously, it sort of tempts us away from looking at the grace that we actually are benefiting from in our everyday life. And so God uses these things, the pattern that the Bible shows is that God uses the things that we would be like, those are the things God uses to show that God's grace is there for everyone. And so that being said, see this here? That being said, God is seeking this in everyone so that no person can boast and say it's because of who they are, because of what they've done. It's because of who God is. Now this here is my apple that hasn't fallen far from the tree, as you can see. So anyway, but hopefully you get something out of this. Obviously, I'm going to be otherwise engaged. But thank you for your time, and I hope that you get something out of this. See you later. You're going to be my little apple head? No? Okay. All right. Bye.